What's going on, everybody? Welcome one and all to the Non-Negotiables podcast. I am your host, Mark. And today, we are going to use our diminishing and ever shrinking right of free speech to speak freely. Perhaps drop some racial slurs while we still can. I don't know. We'll see what the mood takes me. I'm not one for racial slurs, personally. I have a spick mom, for crying out loud. And a guinea wop dad. It's not nice. But damn it, it's my right as an American. At least for now. Now, we've been dealing with this stuff for a long time, right? I mean, especially we on the right, we keep on throwing tantrums and, bashing our heads against the wall and warning people about the coming hate speech laws and the coming fight against our First Amendment. People say we're crazy. That's never going to happen. This is America. It's in the Constitution. Can't just get rid of the very First Amendment. But it's not like that, right? It's not that easy. Yeah, maybe they can't just scratch it out and burn the Constitution, and maybe they're never going to be able to remove the amendment entirely from the Constitution. It's not what we're talking about. So far, the left's been doing a bang-up job pissing all over the First Amendment just through cancel culture. Cancel culture has been super effective. We got people running scared, shaking in their boots. The idea that someone might think you're a racist. Not even think it. They might just say it. And the accusation is enough. And so the First Amendment, really, what's the difference? Who cares if it's there? If we don't use it, if we're too scared to use it, if we're not free to really say what we think and what we want to say, who cares if it's written down? In Florida, now hear me here, in Florida, it is illegal to walk more than 2 horses down the road on a Sunday. Who cares? All over the country, there are books dedicated to these funny little laws that were written for some odd reason 100 years ago, and nobody bothered to take them off the books. They're there. But because nobody cares and nobody follows them, or if they break them, nobody even knows the laws on the books, it doesn't matter. Just because something's there in writing, immortalized on some parchment, doesn't mean it has any value, any worth. And I think we all know that. I think more and more the impulse of we on the right is to test these authoritarian scumbags that would erode our rights. I'm always so excited to watch the sheer numbers of people rebelling against these Puritan, authoritarian leftists. I watch it with my own kids. They're teenagers now. At least the boys are. And man, do they love a good gay joke. They love a good gay joke. They giggle and laugh and pound the floor. Are they homophobes? Of course not. But as soon as they drop a little gay joke, one of them inevitably goes, "You're a homophobe." And then they laugh even harder. I didn't teach them that. I really didn't. It's the natural impulse of humanity to want to touch the thing you tell them not to touch. Say all the things you tell them not to say. You react to a 3-year-old that drops an F-bomb. If you react in any way positive, you laugh about it, you yell at him, you tell him no, you put him in timeout, doesn't matter. That is the moment when that child, at every opportunity, depending on the consequence, will drop F-bombs. There's something special about speech. We're the only animal on the planet that can do it. We're the only one with that power. And when you suppress it and you stop us from using it, we choke on it. What a brilliant, brilliant group of guys our founders were. To put that as the number one, A1 amendment. What a brilliant group of guys. Well, it wasn't enough to use cancel culture to try and suppress our free speech. Our betters have decided that they're going to use the full force of the law. At least our betters in New York. Turns out that Governor Cuomo doesn't much like the Confederate flag. Who would have known? Who would have known? What an interesting fellow. I mean, he seems so unique and so such a broad thinker. But no, I guess he's just one of the crowd joining the leftist chorus of whiners. And so he's gone ahead and signed off on a bill, Senate Bill S8298B, prohibiting the state of New York from selling symbols of hate, from selling or displaying symbols of hate. And what are these symbols of hate? Well, I already mentioned it. It is the Confederate flag. Now, I don't know. I'm not a geography guy. Personally, I did really bad in geography and in history. But aren't New Yorkers Yankees? Is there really that big a problem of Confederate flags flying in the state of New York? Is that really a thing? I mean, maybe it is. I don't know. But I can't imagine that this is such a rampant problem that New York needs a law against it. But apparently it is. Or maybe, I mean, this is just, me spitballing here, but maybe this is just Cuomo virtue signaling. Now, I know, I mean, he's a tough New Yorker, right? He's a tough New Yorker. He doesn't need the virtue signal because ultimately what he says goes, Now, maybe you sleep with the fishes. Maybe you take a nap with a horse's head. Maybe. I don't know. If you don't do what he says. But, maybe he's a virtue signaling little twat. That could be too. And as a matter of fact, I think it is. You see, this law, the justification for this law is as follows. The Confederate flag is a symbol of racism, exclusion, oppression, and violence towards African Americans. You ready for this? Its symbolism and history are directly linked to the enslavement, torture, and murder of millions of African Americans throughout the mid-19th century and beyond. Millions. I don't have the number here, and on my On the Mark channel, I have a breakdown of slavery in the Americas. I can assure you there weren't even 1 million murdered slaves. Slavery is terrible and bad and horrible and a blight on Western civilization. Fine, I'll grant you that. But this is ridiculous. They go on to tout the Anti-Defamation League. They say the Confederate flag made its way onto the Anti-Defamation League's hate symbols database, which of course means that that's it. The Confederate flag can't mean anything else. It's not of any value to anyone, and if it's of value to you, then even if you have some other reason why, at the heart of it all, you're a racist. Violent hate racist, a proponent of hate. Now, I do find it interesting that New York has no problem with the flying of anti-Semitic type flags, flags from the Nation of Islam, whose leader has come out and called Jews termites and has applauded and supported the notion that Israel should not be recognized as a nation. Something that a flag that symbolizes a group of people that are so outwardly hateful, you'd think that maybe Cuomo could you know what? Don't replace the Confederate flag in this law with that one, but maybe add it to it. Or how about the ISIS flag? Okay, Nation of Islam. Okay, let's say that one. We're going to give them a pass. Okay, what about the ISIS flag? Why isn't Cuomo pushing for a law to ban the flying of the ISIS flag in New York State buildings and public property? That's a flag that represents the death of millions. That's a flag that right now as we speak, stands for the brutal torture and murder of Christians, Jews, certain types of Muslims. Where's the ban on that flag? It's never going to come. It's never going to come. That's the interesting thing about all these hate speech and hate symbol laws. They only cut one way. We will never, ever see any non-white representing symbol or any speech against whites being criminalized. Yeah. So that's the latest on Cuomo and this battle with the First Amendment. But it's something that's been going on for a long time. At the beginning of this year, a New York State senator, he introduced a bill, Social Media Hate Speech Accountability Act. I have it right here. I want to read to you a couple of interesting little things. The purpose of the bill is to establish definition of hate speech and require social media network platforms to create a process to remove such hate speech. So wait a second, I don't understand. We have a First Amendment, right? We have a law on the books that says speech, no matter how vile and how disgusting, is protected by our Constitution. How can New York make a law that in some way infringes on that right? fact is that technically they shouldn't be able to, but they have. They say that a fine may be levied against social media network if they are found to be negligent. This is the Social Media Hate Speech Accountability Act. How do they define hate speech? It's a public expression, either verbally, in writing, or through images, which intentionally makes an insulting statement. It makes an insulting statement of a group, I guess I should say, of persons because of their race, ethnicity, nationality, religion, or beliefs, sexual orientation, gender identity, or physical, mental, or intellectual disability. It insults them, and it's illegal, according to this bill in New York. Insulting them, hurting their fifis, is what they consider hate speech. Is what they consider such an egregious breach of the law that it must be scrubbed. It can't be out there, it can't be visible, it cannot be shared. Now let me ask you this. Let's say we're all on board. Let's say, you know what? Okay, New York, you're right. We need to be a softer, kinder nation. We need to be good to each other. We agree with you. Let's go ahead and let's back this law. Let me ask you, how many images of the piss Christ do you think New York State's going to fine Facebook for not taking down? How many hashtag kill all men tweets do you think New York is going to start writing Twitter tickets because they haven't taken it down? Hashtag kill Whitey. You can go to Twitter right now and run a search on these hashtags. There are thousands of tweets. So, it's not written here, but clearly, we all know it's true. They want to protect anyone that isn't white, straight, or male from having their feelings hurt. The First Amendment be damned, and the laws are in place. And I get it, this is New York. I mean, like California, like, Oregon, Washington State, Washington, D.C. These are far left states. I mean, this is just, it's just the nature of the beast. But, overall, there's more of us than there are of them. I mean, the nation as a whole is bigger. And we're, as a nation, we're not going to allow this type of stuff to spread. I wish that were the case. Turns out that Joe Biden has a guy at the head of his transition team. This little guy right here, Richard Stengel. Look at him. Look at that face. That's the kind of guy that slam you in the butt and not even have the decency to give you a reach around. Well, look, Mr. Stengel, he's come out and he's made some statements. Some statements about free speech. He wrote, "All speech is not equal. And where truth cannot drive out lies, we must add new guardrails. I'm all for protecting thought that we hate, but not speech that incites hate." He offered 2 examples of the speech he's talking about, and he said, well, such as Quran burning and the circulation of false narratives. As he was, regarding Russia, is what he was talking about. He says, even the most sophisticated Arab diplomats that I dealt with did not understand why the First Amendment allows someone to burn the Quran. Why, they asked me. would you ever want to protect that? Well, because we're not a backwards, sand-dwelling, cousin-banging, inbred children-having nation. We are a liberal and free and open society. We are a Western nation. And to say something like sophisticated Arab scholar is like, it's an oxymoron. Anybody that believes this day and age that the sun sets in a swamp, like the Muslims believe, is not sophisticated and is not a scholar. But that being said, doesn't matter if they don't get it. This is our country. That said, I don't think Mr. Stengel is going to have any problems with people burning the Holy Bible. Something tells me that if he was to get his way, if there was hate speech laws put on the books under Biden, something tells me those hate speech laws will not protect Christians or cis white men. We know it didn't protect the baker. We know Joe Biden and Kamala Harris were happy to watch the Christian baker lose his business and be crushed under the weight of all the litigation because he didn't want to bake a gay wedding cake. So they're all for limiting speech in one way, compelling speech in the other. New York has a rule on the books that if you intentionally and repeatedly misgender someone, you can be fined. So, anti-hate speech, as defined by them, and pro-compelled speech. And this guy is Joe Biden's lead transition. Now, as far as Joe Biden goes, I got to give the guy props. At a certain level, he's never actually come out against speech. He's actually said a lot about protecting the First Amendment. Now, that might all be lip service, but at the very least, he hasn't come right out and say it. Now, he surrounds himself with people who say it, but I don't think it matters. Ultimately, it doesn't even matter what Joe Biden thinks. I keep saying it, and I'm telling you it's true. You can put money on it. Joe Biden doesn't make it to Valentine's Day. And I'm not saying anything's going to happen to him. I hope he lives to be 407 years old. But this whole thing's a scam. Democrats, you just keep getting scammed. The Democrat Party puts whoever the hell they want in power. Your vote means diddly. But whatever, that's another topic for another day. The real concern when it comes to free speech is Kamala Harris. This linebacker-necked, golly, look at this thing, man. Holy mackerel. Ugh. Golly, that is a horrendous looking woman. Anyway, Kamala Harris is the real one to be worried about. She's going to be president. My prediction again is Valentine's Day 2021. She'll be at the helm. And Kamala Harris doesn't mince words on her feelings when it comes to free speech. She doesn't believe there should be free speech. She signed on to a federal version of that New York law that is basically putting the social media companies in a position where they have to get rid of anything that could be considered insulting. Anything that can hurt feelings of blacks, gays, lesbians, trans, right? White guys, you're going to take it like champs. She had a quote here. She had a quote here somewhere. I don't know. I can't find it. Basically, her point was that this hate speech that's been going on in social media has led to the radicalization, to white nationalists popping up all over the place. Now, we all know that there's maybe 7 of them in the country, but her point is that it's actually creating an explosion of extremists. Those extremists, my guess, is what we talked about earlier. It's all the teenage boys that are so sick and tired of being told what they can and can't say, and they're just getting on Twitter and saying the most outlandish and harsh things they can. That's my guess. That's where she's pulling this notion that there are just piles and piles of white nationalists out there. She also talked about how trans people, hate crimes against trans people, it's coming from the unwillingness of people to accept and believe that people's identity are what they say it is. In other words, if you deny science, if you don't deny basic biology, if you're a stickler for genetics, if you are a wholehearted true believer in chromosomes, you are a hate speech fountain. You need to be shut down. You need to be shut up. Because somewhere out there is a mentally ill homosexual person that read your tweet saying men are men and women are women, and they are sad right now. They are sad, sad, sad. Now, we're not going to look into the fact that some random person's tweet whom they don't know makes them sad and brings them to the point of tears. We're not going to look at that as a problem for them. We're not going to say, hey, maybe you're crazy. Maybe you're a little, I don't know, oversensitive or, off kilter. The idea that, somebody saying something you don't like and drive you to the point of suicide, maybe that's something wrong with you, not the person saying a thing. I mean, it's not your mom, your dad calling you stupid and spitting on you. It's a rando on Twitter. But it breaks you, it shatters you, and then, it leaves you with a gaping hole in your chest where your heart used to be. We're not going to discuss that. We're not gonna point out that the person feeling that way is clearly mentally ill. No. We're gonna shut everybody else up. We're gonna shut everybody else up. And this is the bill that she intended to use. I don't think it passed. The Stop Harmful and Abusive Telecommunications Expression Act, 2019. She signed on to this bill. And here, same as in the New York bill, they want to know every time on social media that somebody said something against individuals or groups of individuals on the basis of race, gender identity, religion, disability, sexual orientation, ethnicity, color, or national origin. Color? Color? So it's not enough ethnicity and race. Even color. So colorism, is that the thing? We don't want one of these light-skinned blacks with the good hair to say something about an ebony-skinned Nigerian brother or sister. Is that what we're talking about here? Actually, what we're talking about here is control, right? They don't care about any of this. If they cared at all about any of this, they'd care about protecting the feelings of the majority of the nation, wouldn't they? It's not about any of this. It's all about control. It's all about pushing their Marxist agenda. Cancel culture isn't enough, though. It's not happening fast enough. As a matter of fact, these hoity-toity, uppity plebs think they can rebel against cancel culture. They think they can go and start new social media outlets like Parler. Are they? What's wrong with them? Don't they understand that we are the masters of the universe? How dare they act in such a way in which that shows that they feel like they have some sort of autonomy or freedom? Can't have any of that. And that's really what it's all about. Complete, total, and utter control. And, man, I don't know how it all plays out. I know what it looks like for me. I mean, obviously, I'm trying to launch a podcast here, and I giggle along with the kids when they make a gay joke. I mean, beyond that, that's my little world. I can't imagine, though, that this succeeds. I can't. It doesn't compute for me. It's got to fail. It's got to fall apart. Even on the left, the majority of the people on the left, that the rules have gotten so narrow that even they will find themselves at odds with the cancel culture. At the end of it all, when it's all played out to its natural end, the hyper woke, ultra, just ridiculous people that are left that haven't canceled each other out has got to be such a tiny little group at some point that they're insignificant, right? I mean, this can't possibly happen. Now, I don't know if it'll happen or not, but I'm going to make a prediction here. I bet New York State, by, let's call it day after Christmas, has at least one rally in which 90% of well over 1,000 people are flying Confederate flags. Maybe that's just my hopeful, wishful thinking talking, but I got a feeling like New York is on the cusp. I feel like New York is right there. You know, they're sick of it. They watched New York City fall apart under de Blasio. They're watching their economy tank. They're seeing their kids stuck at home, not being able to go to school. They feel the lockdown, the pressure of it all. I think it's a pressure cooker, and I think you got some lifelong Democrats out there that are going to backlash. It's happening in Staten Island. People are watching that. They're watching what, a small town of some pissed off citizens can do. So who knows? Maybe I'm wrong. But I got some family up there. I think I'm going to go on Amazon, buy them all some Confederate flags, and see if they wouldn't do me a favor and fly them just for the lulz. Anyways, thought I'd bring you guys some information there on what's going on with freedom of speech. We'll keep trucking on this podcast, and you guys, I appreciate you signing on. I appreciate you subscribing and sharing the links. I will be back tomorrow. We're going to do this thing Monday through Thursday. Not all of them are going to be winners, folks. But we're going to keep it going. We're going to stay consistent. I'll catch you all in the next one.